There have been debates around the stigma of exhibition matches since the birth of boxing, but in the last year or so, YouTube influencers Jake and Logan Paul have used their celebrity to create a new kind of buzz within the boxing world. The younger of the two, Jake, is preparing to fight retired MMA fighter Ben Askren, and as usual, he is raising hell as he does. Let's take a look at Jake Paul versus Ben Askren, but before we do, don't forget to subscribe below. The exhibition fight that allowed for all these YouTube settle-it-in-the-ring rivalries was Mayweather vs. McGregor. Yes, although it was a fight between two seasoned professionals, it was an exhibition match. But it was a highly publicized, highly anticipated, and one of the highest grossing and most watched exhibition matches, let alone fights, of all time. The pre-fight pressers were a spectacle in themselves, as both Floyd and Conor know their way around words. The fight itself was entertaining. And saddest of all, it made promoters realize they don't necessarily need professional boxers to stage a profitable fight. Cut to a few years later. Oh, how the exhibition world has changed. For those of you who don't know, Jake Paul is a YouTube star who got his start with the Disney Channel. He's come a long way since then, and is now known for the notorious antics and pranks he commits alongside brother Logan. You know, house parties in Calabasas during COVID, riots in Arizona, FBI gun raids, all that stuff you'd expect from an ex-Disney star.
Tactical gear could be seen carrying evidence from the property, including several firearms.
Of late, Jake's got his nose in rap and boxing. It comes as a surprise to many, but thus far he's done well with both. Jake can be seen promoting himself as a boxer, and above all, he demands to be taken seriously. This is hard to fathom as he hasn't fought any other pros, well, pro boxers at least. But here's the thing. Like Conor McGregor and Mayweather, Jake has a notorious attitude and high level of energy that draws people to him. But that doesn't necessarily define him as a pro athlete. The question is this: has Jake Paul really walked the walk? Jake Paul's two first exhibition matches were against fellow influencers Deji Olatunji and Anasungib, both of whom Jake dominated. Jake then went on to fight Nate Robinson, a former NBA player who challenged Jake to square up against an actual pro athlete. Jake had been training pretty heavily when he and the basketballer clashed, and unfortunately for Robinson, the match didn't last long.
Mamma mia, the problem child proving to be!
Nate was slept in the second round and quickly became a meme sensation online. We know you've seen it. Yep, that's it. It's too bad. Nate's an awesome guy. Ironically, Jake's upcoming opponent, Ben Askren, also had a humiliating loss that sent shockwaves across the fight world. After a ton of trash talk and pre-fight build-up, Askren was knocked out by Jorge Masvidal within seconds of the first round.
The fight clock is brought to you by Modelo.
Askren has since retired from the UFC, but is set to fight Jake Paul inside the ropes on April 17th. Like Jake. What's troubling about this matchup is that Askren is not a boxing specialist and more of a wrestler. Many think this is why Jake Paul chose to fight him, of all people. Jake wants to use this fight as a stepping stone to gain more followers and take on bigger fighters. With this win against Nate Robinson, Jake proved he had dangerous hands, but knew he had to take another step forward if he was to be taken seriously as a boxer. And since landing his viral KO, Jake has been going on a rampage, calling out every star fighter he can think of. He's thrown toilet paper and water balloons at Dylan Dennis. He's mocked Floyd Mayweather in numerous videos, clowned on Conor McGregor's wife, cursed out Dana White, and made numerous enemies within the UFC and boxing worlds. When a Jake Paul fan stormed the ring after Canelo Alvarez's last win, Canelo cursed the fan away. And Canelo isn't the only one who is tired of the Paul brothers. Billy Joe Saunders has told reporters that boxing is not a game, nor is it something that should be played with.
Like, boxing's not a playground, do you know what I mean? You're getting it and you could be seeing terrible injuries in boxing. And
Nate Diaz sent a similar warning to Jake Paul, telling him he'll eventually be delivered an ass-whooping for free. Many other pro fighters have voiced their distaste towards these YouTuber exhibition matches, stating they're a shame and disgraceful to the sport.
The athlete in me is like, why is this even happening? Like, they don't even deserve it.
Come to me, fight with me, and destroy me.
What are the chances that Jake Paul ever fights Conor McGregor? Zero. Yeah.
Never happened.
The frustration is understandable, as most pros have dedicated their lives just to get the chance to maybe one day make enough money to support their families. The fighters start training when they are children, take no breaks, and give it their all. Many times, they end up with nothing. Here you have Jake Paul. He admits that he began training only a few years ago, but also talks about his abilities as a fighter and the sparring partners who have fallen victim to his hands. The kid is making big money and holds a blind sense of confidence that pisses most people off. This may be simply due to the fact that Jake hasn't faced any professional boxer, nor has he faced a headliner professional boxer in his weight division. Where more experienced and hungry fighters are biting and scratching for just a chance, Jake has managed to position himself at the top in just a few years. Though some may think this is unfair, that's the world we live in. It is Jake's celebrity that brings in the dollars, but the reality of the matter is he did not earn his celebrity from a boxing career, or until he does, few will be willing to take him seriously as a professional boxer. But Jake does have some people impressed. During an interview with UFC President Dana White on Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, Zab Judah and Mike talked of Jake's skills and argued around the fact that Ben Askren wasn't much of a striker.
So you're saying he can fight?
Yes.
All right.
Dana agreed, but countered by saying that Jake Paul didn't stand a chance, then went as far as to say he'll bet $1 million on Askren.
I'll bet $1 million.
Oh, here we go.
And when Jake saw this clip, you could guess what he did. That's right, another YouTube video filled with outrageous trash talk and cringeworthy callouts. But that's his trick. With his young following, Jake has introduced a new and younger crowd to fight sports. And on top of that, Jake Paul has the ability to manipulate social media and get the sports world talking about him, which is something that most seasoned pros frown upon. But Jake doesn't seem to care, nor does he fear Askren. Instead, he thinks Askren punches like, well, we'll just roll the clip.
He is comparable to a grandma as a fighter, and he looks like a grandma. He looks, in fact, exactly like a middle-aged Dutch woman.
Yes, he said Askren punches like a 90-year-old Dutch grandma. Why does he have to bring Dutch grandparents into this? Askren claims he's ready to finally give Jake Paul the beatdown he deserves, but surprisingly enough, many are putting their money on Jake for this one. And Conor McGregor, the original notorious superstar, has actually provided a counter-argument in Jake's favor, stating that Jake does have the courage to fight, thus he is a real fighter and is walking the walk, if you will.
I'm not against it. Any man that is willing to make that walk, all the best to him.
Does Conor genuinely mean this, or is he building suspense around a potential fight between him and Jake Paul in the future? We'll have to get through Jake Paul versus Ben Askren first. If nothing else, the fight should be entertaining. What do you think? Is it a disgrace to boxing? Leave us a comment below.